Okay, continuing on with 3C, so 3C, we'll go to creating nested queries is what we want to talk about. Now this is still a select statement, and what you're doing is nesting your queries. So your main query will appear in the select statement, and the subquery retrieves values that the main query's search condition must match. So what we end up with is this main query. You have the select fields, from, where, and then the join conditions, and you can have, of course, as many join conditions as you need with this. And then the particular field that you're looking for may be customer, CID for instance, equals, and then you're going to develop the same sort of query which will feed certain customer IDs into this search condition. Okay, so, and you can use ands and or operators within that. Now, the next slide, this is some examples here of this nested query. So this example shows all seniors, and where S class is, okay, that's kind of comical. That was the boys are getting themselves up, and my pup and I, Molly and I, were making these videos this morning, so so she had to let me know that they were getting up. Alright, so where were we? This example shows all seniors where S class, and the class would be whether they're sophomore or freshman, for instance, equals Perez's grade. So, and in his class, actually, I should probably say. So the logic is that we want to feed the output of the second query into the first. So with the first query, we want to first step. We want to develop the second query. Okay, find out which class Perez is in. Okay, and he's a senior. And then, because we wouldn't know ordinarily, so we need to find that out. So if you develop these queries individually, you can then put them together. I would really recommend that you develop each nested query, each query within this nested within a nested query individually. Then you can put them together. So basically compartmentalize, break it down. The smaller the piece of code when you're trying to troubleshoot, the easier it is to troubleshoot. So when we're doing this, let's look at this. We're going to grab that. So again, the first is developing the second query. This is the information that should be fed into the first. And we'll go to here, and let's see what we get. Okay, you can see it over here on this side. So S underscore class, he's a senior. So we found that. Now the second part of this is set up the first query to look for and find out who else are seniors. Who else is a senior? Oh, whatever. Okay, so remember, this is the output. So I'm going to substitute that output into this particular first main query. I go to here. There we go. These are the other students who are seniors. Well, Perez is one of those, and Jones is the other. Now with that, when we start to build this, we just go ahead and then we'll have this first step, which is the second query, and then we'll feed that into the second step, which is the first query. Select S last, S first, and S class from student, where S class equals, and then this. Okay, we'll grab that. We should be able to put that in there, and there we go. The query that finds out that Jorge Perez is a senior, and then the query that finds out who are all the seniors within that particular course. Here. Okay, so that's what that nested loop or nested query looks like. Now, here are some other examples here. Okay. And I guess let me just walk through this. Notice the equal sign here. Now, if we're feeding a string value from the second query into the first query, we can use the equals if we return only one value. Now if we're returning, say we're returning a value that may be juniors and seniors, we need to say like instead of equals. So if we're returning multiple values, we should probably use like. That would be the thing to do. Now here's some other examples of using like versus equals. So again, when we're returning one output, and we know what that output is, we can use an equals. Now in the same example, when we select S first, S last, S first, and S class from student, where S class like S underscore, now that would be seniors or sophomores. Remember, the underscore is a single character wildcard. Okay, so we need to use like in that example. Okay, and as the, I should probably group these together in a little bit better, different way. But you can see the first example versus the second. If we were only to use the second, or the equals, using the very same query, except we're using equals S underscore with that single character wildcard, we have no row selected. Okay, so that's where a difference between like and equals. And then in this case, of course, because senior is a string value, it has to be in single quotes. This is showing that it isn't in single quotes, and if it's single quotes, it has to be a string. Okay, it's not, therefore we have an invalid identifier. Okay, now the next steps, let's see, is example shows students who are in the same class as Perez. Okay, and this is tied together through the enrollment table. So first we want to find the classes Perez is in. That's the second query again. We've done some of that, and these are the classes, not the students, but the classes that he's in. And to differentiate, these are the students. We're finding the students who are in the same class. Now here we're finding the students who are in the same classes. Let me rephrase that just once more for clarity. As I say this, I understand that it may not be as clear. These are the students who are in the same grade level as Perez. There. These are the students who are in the same classes, as in databases or MIS, as Perez is. Okay, so what we need to do is go out and first find all the classes that Perez is in. That's that second query. So we're going to do that by using that code. Okay. Now second, we're going to find the students who are in the same classes by feeding the results of that second query into the first. Okay, so if we run this, okay, those are the classes that Perez is in. Now we could tie those to the course name very easily as well. We don't want to at this point. We will pull that up later, or we can pull it up later. Okay, now those are the classes, so I want to, in order to just test that main query, put in those values. I mean, it's a great way to test. It's a great way to work this, so you know first if the subquery works, you know if the main query works, and then you can put them together. Okay, and those are all the students that are in the same classes, in these classes, as Perez. Okay, so are there any duplicates? Because distinct means duplicates. Let's go ahead and put these two together. Now we're going to go ahead and select, you know what I'm going to do here initially is remove distinct, because I think that we're going to see something interesting. So we're going to grab the classes that Perez is in, and then we're going to go ahead and find which students are in those classes. Grab this. Okay, so what we see are Johnson, Marsh, and so this is the list. Johnson and Johnson and Johnson and Perez and Jones. This is the list based upon each of these individual courses. Each of these individual courses. We only want to see the students who are in the same classes, not necessarily the course. Depends on what you're after. We may want to show a listing of the courses as well. But remember that I took out distinct. Distinct should take out all of these additional duplicate values. So I'm going to re-enter distinct. Grab this again. And there we go. So when we're looking at this, we can see that distinctly Johnson, Jones, Marsh, and Perez are all students that have the same class, are in the same class as Perez. And officially, well, technically, we probably want to pull Perez out of that list, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so that is an example of another example of a nested query. Now, a view. I just want to go ahead. Views are a part of this. What a view is a database view presents data in a different format than the one shown in original data tables. A view can be considered a quasi-considered an ad hoc table. Although it is not a table, it's not part of your schema, it is just a static look at a certain set of information as it is right now. But for instance, if you're pulling information continually, like the registration numbers for a course, do you want to actually run that query on a daily or on a minute-by-minute basis? And if you do, what is the impact of performance on your system? Okay, now, and there's a number of other issues. Do we really need that information on a minute-by-minute basis? Well, typically, probably on a half a day or on an hourly basis is just fine. You can go ahead and pull a view, and then with that same information in it, that's good. That will be accurate, essentially accurate, be static, until you run the next view that asks for the same information. And so create view, the syntax create view, and the view name as, and then you have your source query. So when you create your query, you can just tie that to this part, and it'll create that view. And then you access it and you work with it the very same way as any other table. Now, if you're replacing a view, creating and replacing a view, you can use this syntax, create or replace view with the same structure. So with that, I'm just going to say create view faculty, view 1, okay, as, now this is your query, simply your query. Okay, I'm just going to grab this as a query, put it out there, that's it, that's the query. But now, I want to go ahead and create view faculty 1. And I may or may not have this view out there already. Let me see. View is created. Remember, the view name is faculty1 or faculty_view1. So select the star from faculty_view1. And that is not pulling it from the faculty table, that's pulling it from the view. And you have the very same thing. Now, I think what we could do there, drop, oh, what is the syntax? I might have to look it up. Drop view. If I don't get this right off, that's not a big deal. View 1. Okay, drop view and then that particular view would be the way to go ahead and delete that, and then you can recreate that or replace it. So, so basically what we've talked about within this video are the nested queries, how to do that, how to think about that. Remember, create a good way to do this. You can do whatever you want, but a great way to do this is to create each query separately, as in this and this. Create your subquery first, create your main query second, and then feed the output of that query, where was it? Feed the output of that query, the subquery, into the first, and then tie them all together. This makes sure that it's easier to troubleshoot smaller parts than to put everything together first. Okay, and then we took a look at views really quickly and learned how to create a view and work with a view. So that concludes Chapter 3C.